is time for another episode of The Cultural Hall. It is an Articles of News episode, and hoping that this third time is in fact the charm, I am joined by the Charmaine herself from Texas.
Yep.
Ciao, how are you?
That was a worse than a dad joke. That was a mom joke, and I'm doing well.
Ooh,
So,
do you make that joke as a mom? Like, a Charmaine to meet you. Charming, I don't know. Do you try and make that leap?
I occasionally make a like Charmin toilet paper joke or charming Charmaine, that kind of stuff, but
Okay.
you know.
That would make me think, and I've known Chow. That's what we call her. In fact, I think for the longest time I didn't understand who Charmaine was when people would. Anyway, that's an aside. I've known you since I want to say the first time that I ever met you is when Russ and I went up to the lighthouse. Like as far as like more than in class acquaintance, right?
We go back before that, Richie. So
So
you
help
know,
me. So help me out because I've known like about you, but like we didn't have any sort of. Did we? Now I'm going to feel really bad about this. It all sort of blends. We had several dance classes in college together,
yes.
and
Yep.
we were both on student government. But I don't know that I ever was like, "Hey, that could be my pal, Chow," until you
We
started dating Russ. Or what? Am I completely wrong?
You're a little bit wrong. So I lived in the College Stadium Way apartments, and I knew, like, as acquaintance, we were acquaintances at that point.
Right.
And then I moved over to the apartments right next to the Stake Center and across from the campus.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I had a roommate named Molly
Mm.
that you were friends with. Maybe there was some crushes going on. I don't really know. But
Sure.
you came looking for her one day because you and Rob were going to make a movie or a little clip for SUTV, and you needed a female to join you in this movie. So you thought of Molly. Molly wasn't there,
Mhm.
but I was there and I wasn't doing anything. So I came with you and we made this little 2-minute clip
Mm-hmm.
thing. And it was something about like dating and kissing, and I don't even remember, but it was like some funny slapstick humor kind of a thing. So we made that video and it was like, well, see you later.
Mm.
And didn't really interact until we had dance classes together and then dating Russ. So yeah.
And then you went ahead and married
Yes.
him, and then I was at your wedding,
Thanks to that.
and the rest, as they say, is history.
I did stole them from you.
Yep.
Yep.
We have
I married up. I stole them from everybody.
yeah. We're having fun technical issues. What would you like to do?
Oh,
Yeah, it still continues to be a bit robotic on
well,
my end. And
I'm
and
gonna
if I'm entertaining now all the people that are maybe just hearing this and not seeing this. Your video is a little pixelated too, which lets me know that maybe, as we alluded to in the first time that we tried to start doing this, maybe there are storms and maybe you just don't know about it.
Yes. Or maybe Elon Musk is fed up that we quit buying his Teslas, so he's blocking our internet.
Oh, are you a Starlinker?
No, well, we live like 2.5 hours from Elon Musk's situation, so sometimes I think that influences us. We see Starlink all the time in the sky. If you go out for a walk at night,
Sure.
Starlink's always floating around.
Well, sure. You and literally the world. No offense, of
True.
course.
Well, I thought maybe because we were, so close to his ranch, we saw it more often.
Hey,
It
Did you drive-bys
water.
to Elon
Yeah.
Musk? Yeah, okay. Hey, this is working.
Checking at home.
Still up here. Everything's
So-
good up here.
How's my dad doing?
Yeah.
Well, I moved to my living room. Is this better?
Yeah, so far it's been great, and I like
Okay.
your living room better anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
great.
so our internet, whatever, modem, I don't know what they call it these days,
Mm-hmm.
since the 90s. It's in our bedroom, which I'm pointing on. If you're on the TV, you see me pointing one direction.
Sure.
And then the office is the other direction.
Yep.
Sometimes it's just too far for the internet to reach over
Sure.
to the office.
Sure.
So
Tell your sweet husband we need a better mesh,
Yes.
mesh system or
Yes.
something. And then
nobody's using the internet in the bedroom. It's just out of the way. That's why
Yeah.
I put it.
Yeah, yeah. Nope. You need a different thing, and then give him a limit as far as the money goes, because guys like gadgets will spend way too much on it.
Oh yeah.
And then get yourself some better internet.
Okay, I agree.
Done.
So
You hear that, Russ? Do you hear
uh,
that, Russ?
he has a honey-do list and a Richie-do list.
Yeah.
So he can
I
do it.
won't put much on that list. What I was gonna start saying, probably more than any other friends, because I've known your husband since I was a sophomore in high school. We were both on this TV thing that Channel 2 did,
Yes.
and sort of that's where we met. Blah blah blah. But probably more. I mean, you mentioned Rob, former co-host of the Cultural Hall articles of news. That's DJ Rob. Who knew he was a DJ? That's the Rob you referenced. Um, I
Inter-
would say shy of
International DJ.
yeah, shy of maybe him, or maybe one or two other people I can think of. We have the most epic pictures, me and you, and also your husband. There is one where we're on the top of a lighthouse in Cedar City that I have. The photo from your wedding where I have what could only be described as the most epic handlebar
Mustache.
mustache.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize how that might have looked for your wedding and all those pictures. But listen, you knew what I was when you picked me up.
Well,
But
it's iconic.
the
I
best,
own it.
yeah, some of the best pictures with other people, um, that I've ever had. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And that's the largest, or at least it was the largest inland lighthouse in the nation at the
Yeah.
time. I don't know. There are more inland lighthouses out there, but if you want to, roadside attraction, head to Cedar City, Utah, the parking lot of the Walmart.
hmm
There's a lighthouse.
Yep. And you can, or you used to be able to do radio stunts where you had to stay up there in the middle of a snowstorm to the point that your, if not best friend, near best friend at the time, wants to kill you for what you.
Yes.
Yep. Bless his
Bonding.
heart. Yeah. So I have to ask you, for you, lots of busy, what's going on? And then I have a really big question about your relationship.
Okay. Well, we are in Maycember, which
Uh-huh.
all of the parents out there will tell you it's a busy time similar to December, where you've got sports championships, school wrapping up, uh, graduation, whatever. All the things are happening in May, and it is a hassle to keep everybody's calendar straight and to show up to all the events
Mm-hmm.
and the dress up days for school and remembering that you signed up to bring the cookies for the year-end dance company party, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And remember which days your kids are doing their year-end field trips because they met their reading goals all year. So we're in that, and I've got 5 kids in school, so I'm just doing that times 5 plus working full time plus, living life. So it's a busy month. It's good though.
Do you love it?
I love it because I know I will miss it someday.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? I know it's a season. I know I won't have this forever, but it can get really overwhelming if you don't have that perspective of, you know what? I've got 5 more years with my oldest. I during one time when I was kind of overwhelmed by it, I did this calculation of how many days until May 30th, 2030, which is the year she graduates
Mm-hmm.
from high school.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not the day, but it's the year. And it was less than 2,000 days.
Right.
So that kind of kicked my attitude in gear of like, okay, we're going to enjoy this because that's not a lot of time to have with this girl, my daughter that I love and who's awesome before, I'm not going to be in her life every day. She's
Yeah.
going to go to college or whatever. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's some perspective. And then there's some of us that realize that it's now less than 1,400 days until January 20th of 2028. That day can't come soon enough. So there's that for
What
folks.
happens on that date? Second coming?
No, yeah. I've got privy. I've got privy to the second coming.
What is it?
I don't know. Think about it. I don't want to tell the secret. People listening will know. Or maybe they won't, and maybe I don't need the headache of people knowing it's inauguration day in 4 years, in 3 days.
Oh, yes. 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 we are counting that as well. Yes.
But let me ask you this about all that. So your husband sends me this random message of a donkey in Brazil, and I thought that was great. It's par for the course that we have together. There's a point about this. Apparently, he was at the temple on Palm Sunday. I'm not sure which Brazil temple, but they do like a whole thing
Yeah.
in Brazil, and he was there. And I thought, oh, that's very cool. I haven't at this point had the chance to talk to him about it. But my question is this. You have 5 children,
Yes.
and it's Maycember, as you mentioned. It's lots going on. You're a professional person. I would say you guys have bucked the trends as far as a lot of things go. Like when you went to law school, you're like, peace out. I'm going a couple hours away to do this law school thing. And you guys made it work, and it's law school. And I think you had 1 or 2 kids with you and were like, single mom, law school, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
just
baby.
one. Yeah.
Yep.
But you're like, no, listen, I want to do this and I'm going to do this now. So you've bucked a lot of trends, but all to say, uh, how does something like I'm going to leave at this really busy time and you have 5 kids, like how does something like that come about? And then the other part, and I genuinely don't understand this, and this is not a shame in a game or anything like that, but like how does an individual like what talk to me about like the mental stuff that's wrapped around it. Because like I see like these girl trips, right? All the girls were going away for the weekend,
Yep.
and I think, oh man, that would be fun. But also, man, that spouse that's back home having to do all that stuff, and it's not gender specific because we live in a world where blah, blah, and stay-at-home dads and all the things. So I'm not saying anything like that, but like, how do you come to a point where it's like, yep, I'm gonna do this, and then is it like it's not fair, and so you trade it off and be like, you can go to Brazil next time? Like, how do you emotionally come around something like this?
I'll tell you, a lot of it is accidents.
Okay.
Poor planning. So when I went to law school, we thought Russ, his job would move up with us. They would transfer him to where I went to law school. And then they said no. So then we just, we put on our big person underwear and made it work. I was going to say big girl underwear, but that doesn't work for him because he was not wearing girls' underwear. But
Not at
anyway,
that time.
no. So here's what happened. The genesis of the Brazil trip was his brother was going to Brazil,
Okay.
and he was doing it because a band that he loves, an 80s hair metal band called Sabotage, which nobody knows about. And if you do, contact at theculturalhall.com because you should be friends with my brother-in-law. Then you can go to Brazil with him next time.
Yeah.
But he wanted to go to this. They're better known as the Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Sure.
Okay. And they never play as their former iteration of Sabotage, but they were playing at a Monsters of Rock festival in Brazil.
Oh my gosh.
So he bought tickets and said, I'm going to this concert. And then told his wife, who, member of the church, lives in Arizona. They have 4 kids. By the way, hon, I'm leaving and going on this concert and going to Brazil for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And she's like, but I can't go too. And the kids and you're just going to go by yourself, and was kind of stressed about that. So she told me about it. And I said, you know what? I know a guy who can go with them. And that genesis of me saying he should go was, I don't know if you've heard of Taylor Swift, but she had a concert that went on for a couple years.
Sure.
And
era.
Really wanted, yeah, it was an era. It was a little ditty that she did. But in July of last year, I realized I could go to Austria and see the Eras tour for the same price that it was to see her concert here in the United States.
Oh, geez.
And so, you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I bought tickets. We bought, me and my best friend, who are both Swifties, we bought tickets to Austria, and we bought Eras tour tickets. And we were on our way to the airport when we found out there was a terrorist threat.
Oh, jeez.
But we still went to Austria. The concert was canceled. We were the lost Eras tour concert in Vienna. We still went to Vienna, and it was right when the kids were starting school. So my husband did back to school nights for, meet the teachers, get all the school supplies, buy the new shoes, dance team orientation, vaccines, right? You got to get your vaccines. Of course, we wait till the last minute. So he did all that on his own. And I think maybe we're different in that way that, and we've had that experience from law school before where we accidentally were stuck in this place that wasn't very traditional, but we just put on our big kid attitudes and underwear and we got through it. So anyways, when this came up, I said, I went to Austria, you go to Brazil. And it was far. The good news is he planned it in October. So I was able to clear my work schedule so that I didn't have anything happening.
Sure.
And I could just kind of lay low and get work done. And that's how we did it. So that's how he ended up in Brazil. So.
Well, and I think it's kudos. So it's a couple things about it. Like, I understand, like, being able to go somewhere with my brother for 2 weeks. How cool would that be? Right. Even if that's just like we're going down to, the country of Texas or something like that.
Yes.
Would love the opportunity to just be able to do something like that. I think that's part of it. And I think that you start to get a perspective, like you said, you got less than 2,000 days with your oldest daughter. Like, life starts to become that thing where you go, I've got less than so many days or whatever the thing may be in life. And so you start to do those things. But it has always fascinated me where it's like, yeah, I'm going to go. And that's good luck. And I guess it's just life. We figure our way through it. But I always am like, is it a tit for tat thing where we go, you got Austria, I'm going to do Brazil. And then if you choose to do another thing, then I get to do another thing. Like, is that how couples do it? Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. Cause my husband was like, Brazil to see a band that I don't really know their stuff. It is not like the same as, granted, I went and saw Taylor Swift later. So those concerned that I'd never got to see her.
We can breathe. Good.
I went to New Orleans. Yeah, we spent the money. Because here's the other, and this is a digression. So cut this out, Richie, if you need to.
Nope.
So my best friend, she's been my best friend since we were in kindergarten. Like, we grew up in Taylorsville, Utah together. I moved to Texas. She was married, had kids. They moved to Texas. She lives 20 minutes from me. So that's who I went to Taylor Swift with. While we're buying the tickets to go to Austria, very stressful. She's doing this tapping thing along her chest. And for those that can't see the video, I'm showing what the tapping is, pretty high up, just below the collarbone. And she gets to this spot and she says, that's a lump. So while we're buying these tickets to Taylor Swift, she says, I have a lump right here.
Oh, geez.
Not down low. It is up high. So the day before we flew out, she got a biopsy. The Friday we got back, she found out she had stage 4 breast cancer.
Oh, my gosh.
So, yes. So she had a double mastectomy in September. And while I'm sitting on the edge of her bed, she's recovering, but I'm also having this very real, this may be it. We don't know, how she's going to be chemo responsive, everything.
Sure.
That's when I went ahead and bought tickets to go to Taylor Swift in New Orleans. I thought, well, we got to go. Like, I'm going to do this. So that's, anyways, that's more to that story. But, if there was something that my husband wanted to do and he'd said, hey, I really want to go with Richie to whatever.
Careful with what you say right now. You might be given permission to whatever this is.
No, but I am. I own it. I'd say do it. Do it, hon. Like, make it possible. I think the frustrating thing being married and maybe just being married the way we don't live close to family. And I'm a former prosecutor, so I really don't trust my kids staying overnight other places. We don't do sleepovers.
Sure, because that's everything of when they happen.
Yes. So the hardest thing for us is we both would love to go hang out in Paris, France, or go to Hawaii. You know what I mean? But that's harder for me to do until the kids are a little bit older. So
we're going to take a break, see if we can get things fixed around, and then we'll come back and do actual articles of news. Let me take just a moment to tell you all about bestdjinutah.com. That is the website where you can learn all about me. Oh, sure, you probably feel like you know me, but you know me in the cultural hall sense. I have a DJ company now, 6 of us strong,
great event hosts, MCs, and DJs that can be able to make whatever event you have coming up absolutely spectacular, and hope you will reach out to us. Now you're thinking, well, wait a minute, Richie, I don't live in Utah. Would you travel? Absolutely, I would travel. Would they travel? Absolutely, they would travel. Whatever your event is, doesn't have to be a wedding or a community event. We can do all sorts of things. I can teach you line dancing. I can dance with you. We can do partner dancing. We can do all kinds of things, but we can't do any of it if you don't hit me up. You can go to bestdjinutah.com. You can fill out the form to get more information or get a quote, and then I will get right back to you. Find out why I'm so busy and why sometimes we don't get episodes of the Cultural Hall. It's all because of bestdjinutah.com.
All right, we think we got it figured out here in the second half of our articles of news. We do, first of all, no technical interruptions. Come on, fingers crossed. And we do actual articles of news. Hit it, Peter.
You can't lose articles of news.
And away we go. Now, before this article of news, let me just share this email. Danny Haroldson. Danny, let me make sure I'm saying his name correctly. Yes, Danny Haroldson. He is our most recent Patreon saint, so a huge shout out to him. He sent a message that said, hey, I sent an email a little while back about the Patty Shack. You remember it as Bell's Diner in Taylorsville. It's now called the Patty Shack. It is a burger joint. It was a burger joint then, but now it's a different name. He says, I checked my email several times that week to see if there was a reply. When I heard the email read on the show, I got my answer to if you received it. I decided to become a Patreon saint today. So welcome, Danny. And I don't have any sort of report as to whether or not he's been to the Patty Shack, but my suspicion would be I told him to go. He went and checked it out, and now he's like, listen, this needs to be rewarded.
Nice.
I'm going to become a Patreon saint. Yeah. Oh, it's delicious. It's a great place. When you come back next, lunch on me.
Last week of July.
Okay? Done. I'll take you to the Patty Shack. Are you bringing all the kids?
Yes, it's our Christopherson family reunion.
Oh, nice. Oh, Todd, Todd and Tom. Tell you what, if you want to bring them too, they can come as well. I'll buy them a burger if they'd like to stop by.
Well, I can confirm that Elder Christopherson does eat fried chicken. So,
well, sure.
What it's worth.
Yeah, listen, you can tell by some of the look at some of general authorities. They eat plenty of plenty of the fried chicken. They're stopping by Swig or Thirst or any of those things. Crumble. Yep. Yeah, they imbibe in their own way.
Yep.
So as far as news goes, I want to make sure that we save ourselves plenty of time to get in some of the legal things with the church. But I want to say, first of all, women's conference going on right now. And spoiler, if you're not attending women's conference, you could miss the one, the only, he is my only Joseph of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Donny Osmond, showing up and doing a little cameo at women's conference.
In the coat.
Yes.
In the coat. And man, what a coat.
Yeah, it was red and yellow and ochre and peach and ruby and scarlet.
And long.
Yeah.
And drapey. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not for function. It's for style.
Well, it's a stagecoach rather.
But still, I'm like, whoa, this is like opposite of biblical functionality. This is flamboyant.
Yeah, interesting. The costume designer for Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat by Andrew Lloyd Webber wasn't thinking like biblical function when they designed it. Yeah,
right.
Point.
No sackcloth and additives. It was like, woo.
He came out as part of Brad Wilcox talk, who the subject of the talk was essentially like how the Lord has led them, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I understand correctly. And Brother Wilcox, Elder Wilcox, brings out a bunch of the grandkids, the Osmond, I guess that would be third generation or fourth generation, and then brings out Debbie, his wife. And some people know who Debbie Osmond is because they know Donnie. And then a collective room of women lost it. If there was ever going to be someone that women at women's conference would lose it over, it would be over Donnie Osmond. There is no bigger star.
Transcends the generational lines.
Yes. And bigger, like, I think that people, it's one of those things where it's like, what's your favorite book? The Book of Mormon. Okay, but like, if we were going to talk about like all books, like, what are we talking about? I think that people would be like, well, maybe The Prophet would be a bigger deal. But as far as like celebrity and fandom, I
Mhm.
contend there is no bigger for generations Donny Osmond.
Yep, I agree.
And he sang.
Yes, he sang. Yes, it was wild and crazy times at the women's conference.
Have you ever been to women's conference before?
I've attended online.
Okay.
That's mostly when I do it. I attend online. My mom does pretty regularly, and my next door neighbor growing up was there in the audience and shared the video with me personally.
Well,
Audio coming out. So
yeah. I think it would be a pretty cool thing. There is a part of me, and this is, read me very clear, everyone. This is not what I'm saying. But you know how everyone are like, you don't see a men's conference.
mhm.
Like I know why. It's because no dude wants to plan it, and we're like, forget it. We don't. But
Yeah.
there is something to me about like an annual. It's just a bunch of guys, and we're going to do the thing that I think was special about priesthood session of general conference that we don't anymore. And I know all the haters are saying, well, what if the general conference is? All it is the men that speak. I know we need more women
Yeah.
to speak. I'm in that team as well. But that isn't the same as what women's conference is, because there aren't men except for the speakers, as I understand it. And like as a man, a gentleman, I can't just go down to women's conference. It's women's conference.
And it's geared towards their life struggles. So yeah, I think there should be on some degree a men's conference that has both women and men
Yes.
speakers,
Yes.
discusses, stuff for men. I remember I went to lunch with some of my friends, or breakfast actually, and there was a men's Bible study group at the next table.
Cool.
It was awesome to see these men who got together for breakfast at this restaurant on Wednesday morning to read the Bible. I just like that let's take this good piece and add it to what we have right now, because that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Heck, just a couple of dudes that like, and you probably know this from your husband, but I feel like he does this better than certainly I do, but than most people that I know. But like just dudes who need other dudes, but will never admit that we need another dude, and then we sort of couch it in, well, I'm making a lot of money. I got the
Yeah.
kids, and the old ball and chains got the things. Gotta do the things. What?
Yeah.
And, the wife is like, no, please go be with a friend, please.
Yeah, when I started my book club, and Russ started a man movie club.
Okay. And does
so
it happen?
It doesn't anymore. A lot of the friends moved away
Sure.
that were here and were part of it. But on Tuesdays, once a month, Tuesday was my book club. Thursday, once a month, he hosted a movie thing, and they watched like a lot of those Marvel movies to get ready for the next one coming out. And then they all went and saw the next one when it came out. And so that was pretty cool, but a lot of people moved away. And so then it didn't have a big crowd anymore.
So two things about that. One, I'm thinking about starting a men's conference. It will be on the campus of my house, and it will be online. So if people are interested in speaking at the Cultural Hall Men's Conference,
Yes.
I would love to do that. And you know how in a previous episode I talked with Kurt Frankum about the BYU cruise, the
Yes.
everybody on the boat for the Cougar Sports cruise.
Yeah, I remember that episode.
We are going to do a cruise this summer for the Cultural Hall.
What?
It's going to be on the Great Salt Lake. So there are 7 seats.
You had me.
7 seats. No, we're doing it. 7 seats on the
there a
Great
lake
Salt
anymore?
Lake. Yes.
It's a
I
bike
know
cruise?
you have to walk for a long time. And you want to put a little bit of the vapor rub right underneath and around your nostrils.
Yep.
And if we get enough people interested, we can rent a whole boat and do dinner. So contact at theculturalhall.com if you would like to be with that cruise. Seats will fill up very fastly.
Yeah. They're limited.
Yeah, limited seating.
Oh, it's fun.
All right, let's get into heavy stuff for a bit, shall we?
Okay. Yep.
So I would like to know. Let's dip our toe into the heavy stuff. Actually, let's start here. So Ammon Bundy, previous guest of the Cultural Hall, for people that need that resetting, the Bundy family, and there was the water rights and the land and all the things, and there was a standoff with the federal government, and then the federal government sort of went, this is going to be a little bit too much, because lots of people sort of united behind the Bundys, right? And then it happened again up in Oregon. And actually, a guy met at a church died.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there was all this stuff. And so Ammon Bundy gets through a civil case, and he owes like $52 million or something ridiculous. And or maybe justified, maybe not ridiculous, right? Like this is what the court said anyway. So he has this, he's living in Idaho, he decides I'm going to move to Cedar City, recently gets pulled over, and they're like, oh, hey, yeah, this is the thing, and we think that it's a civic matter, so we're not going to bother about taking you in. So help me from a legal perspective. Is it that Utah doesn't want to deal with Idaho's business? Is that he has made himself like a hornet's nest enough that we're like, listen, if he's not doing something really egregious, we sort of leave them alone, kind of like polygamists in the state of Utah. Polygamy, there's some level of that is illegal. Or do we just sort of look the other way so long as it's not, like in the case of polygamy, it's so long as it's not child abuse? Like, why is he not, if there's a warrant, why is he not, why is he not in jail? Why doesn't he have to pay this stuff? Why would they pull him over and go ahead and go, sir, you're fine?
What is the charge? So it's that he didn't pay the fine in Idaho?
Yeah, so there's fines in Idaho, and the policemen are like, well, that's a civic thing or a civil thing, and we're not going to.
So there's different types of warrants
Sure.
that you can have issued. There's a probable cause warrant where you've done something criminal. There's a capias warrant, which is like a failure to appear. You're not paying a fine, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Capias is a lot more of a low-level issue, and I think it's actually written into laws about what kind of force or enforcement you can use with that. And it's a lot lower of standard for doing something about a capias. Now, a court can set a show cause on the capias warrant and then do a failure to appear and send out a failure to appear warrant and then set a hearing to hold them in contempt and then do a contempt warrant. And then the judge literally signs something, law enforcement everywhere and anywhere, you find this person, you bring them back to me.
Okay.
So it's a lot higher of a standard. But I'm guessing right now it's a low-level warrant that they actually have no really force and authority to serve it, to process it. And a lot of times this comes down to a financial government management issue, because when let's say that you're on the run as a serial killer and you're arrested in Florida, but you escaped from Colorado, talking about a different Bundy in this case.
Yeah. That Bundy line, I'm not sure. Great-great-grandpa Bundy, what did he do?
But the Florida government will say to Colorado, you need to reimburse us for handling and processing your warrant. This is how much money we want to pay. And Colorado will say, oh my gosh, he's a serial killer. Thank you. Here's your money. But Idaho's probably going to say, it was a capias warrant. Thanks. But, you're going to have to eat that cost that it was. So it comes down to like a government financial management issue.
So if you break the law, this is what I'm getting. Go to a really poor state, or break the law in a really poor state, so that they
only have your sentence be a fine, right?
Yeah,
it's just money.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. We're obviously going to get a little heavier than all that. Let's talk now about the tithing lawsuit. You're familiar within the stuff that I sent you. It talks about how. Not the tithing lawsuit there. So the church was ruled against. The church has insurance. These they're abused. And the church is like, hey, we want the insurance to pay it. And the judge is like, insurance isn't going to pay it. You guys are going to pay it. And now we're like, no, we're not going to pay it. The insurance is going to pay it. Walk me through what this whole thing is.
So they're arguing over the contract for when the insurance company has to indemnify the church for something that happened that triggers the insurance clause. Church was probably relying on that when they agreed to the settlement. Oh yeah, we can just have our insurance company pay this out. The insurance company, before they do a payout, they're going to make sure certain conditions were met to make it enforceable. And for me, it's relatable in the sense of malpractice. I have malpractice insurance for practicing law.
Okay.
But for that to be covered by my insurance company, I've got to have an engagement agreement with that case. I have to provide a statement of billing practice to that client, and I have to be obligated to give regular updates to that client. And then if I don't work on their case, I just take their money and I never actually do the legal work, then the malpractice insurance will pay or try to make whole my client that I didn't do anything for. So my guess here is the insurance company, the policy, probably had a number of requirements for the church to fulfill, and that the church did not fulfill those requirements. They're saying, well, the contract says you had to do all this stuff. You didn't in these cases. We don't have to pay, because it's a contract has a two-way bargain, right? Both parties are obligated to do something. And so that is what I'm thinking is the issue. But ultimately, it comes down to interpretation of the words of the contract. And it's very boring. This is the class in law school you kind of sleep through. In my case, I had a baby to play with in class. And so I did that.
So a couple things kind of come to my mind. So forgive me for making it this sort of crude, but like life insurance, if you take your own life, and if that's a situation that you're in, please get help and call people. People care about you and love you very much. But like, as I understand it, like if you have life insurance and then you take your own life, that essentially says, hey, life insurance won't be paid out on that, because that's sort of the thing with the claim. So that would be a thing that wasn't, or that occurred that insurance didn't cover. So it's sort of like that, like the different things that needed to take place for the insurance company to pay it for the church didn't. The judge said, yeah, guys, this happened or this didn't happen. This is why we're ruling this way. And now the church is saying, I guess my question is the church, two parts. One, the optics of like, well, we don't want to pay it. I have sort of an issue with, because this is sexual abuse of two minors for several years and multiple cases as far as this goes. But the optics of that, one, but like, it would seem to me that it's like, did you do any of the following? A, B, C, D, E. Oh, yeah, no, we didn't do any of those. Okay, well, then we're not paying. Like, it would seem to me that would be able to not have to be appealed, or can anything be appealed?
Pretty much anything can be appealed. And then the appellate court decides whether or not you have a case that should be decided, or sometimes they say there's no issue of material fact. You shouldn't have appealed this. They'll just decline to hear it or something like that. Sometimes, so that's normally what happens.
Okay.
I was just going to say, I mean, the article that you're talking about, it says the church claims the insurance companies are obligated to defend and indemnify the church against the underlying lawsuit and must pay the church the entire amount of its settlement and defense costs. So when I read this, when I get a malpractice claim, like somebody sues me, or I get any wind that somebody might sue me, what I normally do, sorry, there's a squirrel. My dogs went crazy. What I normally do is I call my malpractice insurance right out the gate. And I say, I just want to put you on notice that I got this letter and I'm worried this will happen. It looks like when I read this paragraph that perhaps the church handled it and then turned in like a claim to the insurance company saying, pay this. And the insurance company says, we're not obligated to do this. You should have let us know initially, like right at the jump. And so that's because they want to be able to approve is this cost really necessary that you put in? So
okay,
that's what I think might be the issue there. But yeah, anybody can appeal in a case. The judge rules against you, you can appeal.
Well, okay. Let's talk some more about those allegations. This is in California.
Yep.
Nearly 100 allegations against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They've been rocked by a slew of sexual abuse allegations. The latest scandal to hit the organization, a 3-year look-back legal window. Got a question? Remind me to ask you, what is that? I'm imagining it means we can look back 3 years. Allows adult survivors to file claims in the that has produced 100 allegations. Okay, so let's just sort of talk about this. It seems to be a constant. Unfortunately, we have various places. This one, 100 people, a look back window. Am I right? You can look back 3 years. Anyone that has made these claims or is there abuse that has existed in the last 3 years, that's the look back window. Is that how that works?
Yeah, and a lot of states, in light of the Harvey Weinstein, what happened there, that's really been expanded because a lot of children who are abused, they don't have the language to articulate what happened to them. You know, if you ask a 5-year-old, tell me about being sexually assaulted, penetration, oral, whatever, they're going to be like, what are you talking? You know, a 5,
Right.
6, 7, 8-year-old, they don't have that vocabulary to explain it. Later on, when they're 21, 22, 23, and they're much more exposed to adult things, they're like, that's the thing that brother so-and-so had me do.
Okay.
That's the thing. And that's when it hits them. So a lot of times those look back windows, they say they know or should have known. That's the kind of language. Like, you should have been able to put this together that this was not okay. Did you say something once you were of the maturity and the mindset that you could say that was abuse? So
with that and the number of that, and then the fact that they have sort of combined together, and that there's all of this, and then the church responds, and we sort of rubber stamp the response of the church does not believe in the abuse of a minor. Like, that seems to be sort of our rubber stamped response. We think that it is the most egregious thing. We have training for our adults who are able to blah 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 blah. So this will sound terribly crude, and it's not dismissive at all. But so what then? Will this continue to go and be played out, and maybe these 100 people will get something, but maybe other people won't? Or how does, as the legal system, as we work through these things where people will come about, like, do we just keep going and going? Maybe the argument presented this time wasn't great, but we learned from the last argument, and now we can take it the next time, like we see sort of played out in the tithing lawsuit? Or is it any time that anyone has this, we're going to see this continue to come about, and there's not any sort of precedent? Like, guys, this is exactly like this last one was, and they didn't rule this way. Like, how we continue to see it. How does this play out, do we suppose?
I will say one of the things that I think is very different from how things are now is people want to see a lot of change. We know better. We should do better. And those victims that are being offered compensation, $20,000 for 1 year of abuse. I mean, that feels really ick to me. That feels like prostitution, solicitation. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I don't.
And is that about the issue of the amount of money? Like, we'll pay you a specific amount per year, and that, like, that concept just feels ick to you?
Yeah, that feels really gross. I mean, some people, they settled it for $500,000 for 5 years of abuse. Okay, then how much is that per year that you're getting compensated for? And what I would hope the church says, you can't really compensate for loss of innocence.
Sure.
And I would love to see a handbook policy that anybody who has this conviction cannot hold the priesthood.
Mm.
So going forward, just shouldn't be able to have that line of authority. So it's really interesting. I don't know if I'd say interesting. So I was conferring with a friend who was dealing with, this is sort of like in the grapevine, someone was part of a lawsuit with the church and had a settlement offer. And so through the grapevine, relaying information of thoughts, which led me to floodlit.org, which is the website that just does church stuff. And Richie, I don't know if you knew this, but my sister was sexually assaulted in the 90s.
I didn't
by
know.
a church member. Yes. Ruined. I don't want to ruined the childhood. She is the toughest, strongest woman I know, and picked up the pieces of her life and has a beautiful life, has a wonderful life, But at the time, the bishop had asked my mom to move out of the ward because it was uncomfortable for people. And
Jeez.
I mean, my sister ended up moving in with my grandma. But when I was talking with this friend, a couple of weeks ago, I was looking on there and I was like, oh, I wonder if my sister's case is on there. So I looked it up and read a news article about it. And it was interesting the attitudes that we had in the 90s that have changed and evolved so much, because in her case, they were saying, well, he was just having a midlife crisis.
Jeez.
And that's why this happened. And the prosecutor agreed. If that's what it shows through everything that we were talking about with him, through all of his pre-sentence reports, if it's just a midlife crisis, he could just get probation for this. It's not a midlife crisis to groom somebody for 3 years for abuse.
No.
That's not. No. So the attitude has definitely changed, because you would never say that in 2025. He's having a midlife crisis. That would not go well. So I'm hopeful the church will pivot and do better, because this article that you shared, the church kind of says, like, these are all the good things we do. In the 70s, we started regular public sermons on the subject. Well, I wasn't around in the 70s. Maybe they did, but I haven't really heard. I heard Elder Patrick Kieran's.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall hearing this much lately.
Sure.
They require a training for everyone who works with the youth. Well, okay. I guess that's something.
Well, let me butt in here real quick. Utah law just changed, and now all anyone who has any sort of leadership and or works with kids has to have a background check.
Yes, and that's
the state of Utah.
Yep.
Yeah,
and Pennsylvania's been doing that for many years, ever since the Sandusky case came out.
Sure.
That's standard for people in Pennsylvania. So it's a move that I think is good. The part in the article that made me just kind of scoff a little bit, it says, statements from the church indicate their first priority is providing healing from victims. This often starts with professional mental health counseling, period. Bishops across the United States. I'm like, wait, we go from victims to putting it in the hands of bishops. What if your bishop is the perpetrator?
exactly.
What if your bishop is best friends with the perpetrator and says, think about what this will do to his family?
Sure.
You should probably keep this quiet. I don't trust bishops. We have lay leadership. They're not paid. This isn't their job. And they're human beings. And I think more often than not, they do a calculation of damage control before they do a first priority of providing healing for the victims. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of had to laugh at this. Victims are number one, but you put it in the hands of a person who's not professional, whose job doesn't depend on this. I'm a mandatory reporter. So as an attorney, if somebody tells me they are being abused or assaulted or have experienced this, I have to report it.
Right.
It is my obligation, or I lose my law license.
Mm-hmm.
Bishops, they've tried to do that by law, but when you're not paid, when this isn't your job, it's not the same as the Baptist church. They take it much more seriously because it's their job,
Well, and I think it's in addition to all that, there are some bishops who I think could do a pretty good job about it, right? We sort of say, well, bishops and they're just, lay leaders or whatever. I would suspect that there are some that when they hear about this, they go, oh my gosh, that is so horrible. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And we, this ward would love to fund this therapy for you to be able to go and to see someone. Do not worry about that. And I want you to know that immediately, as soon as we get done with this meeting, I am having the phone call with this person and will release them from any opportunity that they can do this. And, if they, depending on where they live, and then the next call will be either him to the authorities or me to the authorities. I'm sure that there are some that handle it properly. And then I'm sure that there are some who, they left their 9-to-5 HVAC job and have no idea what to do with any of this and genuinely are trying to do their best and hear something like this and go, come on, Russ, there's no way Russ did this. Like they just genuinely sort of feel that. And I don't
daughter. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
He's got a daughter. He has children.
Yeah, he's got children in his own. He wouldn't do, or for whatever thing that we sort of do, like the affinity of like, We believe the same. I've been to the temple with Russ. He would never. And I'm just using Russ because that was the first name that came to my mind. And I think that becomes an interesting aspect of that as well, because sure, he is trying to do the best that he can, and that best isn't good enough for these people that are in these situations. So
here's the other thing. And again, this is where I feel like the church needs to make, I really feel like there should be study on this. When you have a rape victim that comes to police, you let them speak with somebody of their own gender, right? Because they're much more comfortable using explicit terminology, female to female.
Sure.
The church doesn't provide that as an option. You know, when I tell my kids, when you get lost in public and you need help, go to a mother with children. I know you can trust them. And I don't think the church has really understood what it does to people being honest and telling and saying something when the person they're supposed to say it to looks a lot like the perpetrator or is somebody that they would blush to say explicit words to. Do you know what I mean? They would fear, but they can, a young woman can talk to a female about her menstrual period or whatever, right? Because you've got the same body as me. You know, you've got the same parts. And to put it on talking to somebody that I think it silences voices in a way that you will never know they've been silenced. And law enforcement has learned that they need to do, so that's why you'll see, it's not a perfect system. I mean, in Gabby Petito's case, to go there, they brought a female officer on scene, but she still didn't catch that there was domestic abuse happening. Do you know what I mean? It's not perfect, but it certainly helps victim articulate what happened. So I kind of laughed at that statement. Our first priority is to provide healings for victims. I think, how are we going about this in a thoughtful way that really puts them first and makes this open to them? Because it's really hard in a day and age when, if I want to go to a domestic violence shelter, I don't have to talk to a man to do that. You know what I mean? I just show up. I don't have to get a permission slip from my pastoral leader, my husband, my whatever. You can show up and receive that resource. And if the church is going to say, this is our first priority, you need to make the resources more accessible and less gate kept by bishops that I think are a hindrance to that happening.
Yeah. Well, and what I find valuable about just the conversation that we've had about this is that's not something that I've ever considered before. And that's probably just because when the bishop's a dude and I'm a dude and I sit and I talk to a dude, although I don't know that I'm ever going to be like, well, bishop, penis, like that feels sort of
You're trying for probate cancer or not probate, prostate, sorry.
Lawyer brain. No, but I do have probate cancer, so there is that.
I too have probate cancer.
No, but so that's something that I'd never even considered. And so, some people just hearing that can go, oh, what power do I wield within my own home, within my own ward? Just knowing that, I think it's just an awareness of something like that. And I think it becomes, and I think we're continuing to see this increase, the value of your Relief Society president and your Young Women's president in your ward, where I think for a long time, it's like, well, when there's a funeral, we make a ham.
Yeah.
When someone's struggling, we gather the women around. I love so much that it's like, yeah, you know what? Bishop maybe not the person to do it. And 100% the utmost confidence in the Relief Society president to be able to do something that the bishop couldn't do, and accordingly has I use authority, and that's a trigger word for a lot of people, but authority to be like, hey, bishop, listen, I'm not really at liberty to share a lot of these things because she's asked that I kept it private, but this is a thing and we need to take care of this person this way. And I've encouraged her to talk with you, and I'll be present for that meeting with you and her and whatever. Right. Yeah. I just think that's an evolution that I'm excited is occurring.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I agree. Not a midlife crisis. Let's not go back in time. Let's go forward.
If you are in the U.S., you can call or text the Child Help Abuse line, 800-422-4453. Or you can visit the Child Help Abuse Hotline website to be able to do that, to report. And for crying out loud. The excuse of, what will it do to his life? He's just a young person just starting out. Nope. She's just no. Under
Childhood has ended.
yeah,
It's
under no circumstances should we give anyone a pass. Well, he talked with the bishop. Don't you believe in forgiveness, Chow? Don't you believe in forgiveness? Yes, and I also believe in the law and the ability for the law to be able to be rendered in situations like that. Okay. We don't have much time.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. I'm
Yeah.
glad for the conversation that we had and the technical difficulties that we mustered our way through. It's fine. It's been great here in the second half. A meeting house in Provo, this has been all in the news as it was just occurred, I think yesterday, day before, received thousands of dollars in damages after apparent vandalism. According to the case report, the vandalism was discovered by a family member of a church official. So read someone going in to play basketball. I borrowed my dad's keys.
Yep.
That's the family member of a church official. Yeah, I mean, listen, we were going in to practice the piano.
I think that's what it probably was. Practicing a musical number because they found it in the chapel, and I don't know why the basketball guys would go into the chapel.
Fair point. Upon responding, officials observed damage throughout several areas of the meeting house, an overturned piano, which that makes me think maybe some meth was at play. Because if you ever tried to overturn a piano, that is some serious lifting, or that's a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah. Broken glass panel, broken pipes, and more inside the chapel at the front of the podium area. The ground was littered with plastic pieces. They were pieces at the organ.
Yep. Somebody brought a bunch of pieces of wood in here. Wait a minute, it's from the organ.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny to me. Like, what are all these wood pieces?
I am not one who is wont to do any of this, and I for sure don't understand. I understand feeling powerless around someone who has been has caused you harm. And I'm not saying that the church causes people harm, although I think that there are members of the church who have caused other members of the church harm. But undoubtedly, this is someone who is like, I have an issue with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on some level.
Mm-hmm.
I am not one who is wont to go and trash something.
Yeah.
But like further, and I don't think the people that do that are of complete sound mind, because you're not getting back the people that hurt you by overturning the piano. You are, causing damage for the guy that now has to come in, that you've never even talked to him, that any of those kind of things. So
yeah, I'm making an organist cry. When I read this story, I just thought of all the organ players that would read this and weep for the busted up organ.
Yeah, and there's never the organist that's under 70 years old, so you're making old ladies cry. Come on.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't make sense.
But the other part of it is, so this chapel apparently is by the MTC, and the MTC has cameras. I also don't break the law, minus maybe speeding and ripping the tag off a mattress. That in my life, because there are cameras everywhere. We watch the shows about how people get murdered, and it's like, and I know Chow was at the Gas and Go on the corner of 4300 and 11th West because this camera caught that, and they follow. Bloop, bloop,
yep.
Bloop, the
you
whole
can
time.
see where the phone. Yeah, the phone, cell phone pinging. Yep.
Yes.
Open book.
And even if you're smart, air quotes, and you turn your phone off or you don't bring it with you, like they know that you didn't bring your phone with you, and they know that it turned it off.
Yeah, that just is more sus. So,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. Oh, I fell asleep for 7 hours in the middle of the day, and I didn't have my phone. I lost it at my house, on my bed. Last story before we take off out of here. Let us talk about Sister Browning. I would love to talk about this.
This happened just, I think, yesterday or the day before. Or this week. I shouldn't pin us down to that date.
Oh, yeah. It happened recently.
Yeah. Yes.
A National Day
of Prayer. Yes.
Yeah. So what is this?
So this is a day of prayer where all religions are invited to the White House. And traditionally, all religions. I can't speak for the current administration on inviting all religions.
Sure.
But they're invited to be present and they pray together. And normally somebody gives the prayer. They're authorized to share a prayer from some organization or from some church. They give a prayer to bless the nation. And it's just kind of this nice, unified faith event where there's a National Day of Prayer. Now, Sister Tracy Browning was invited to it to represent the church. I think the church was invited and the church decided to send her as our representation. She did not offer the public prayer, but she went and was there. And I thought it was interesting when you see pictures of it that are officially put out by the church. I can't speak for everybody's selfies, but you see Sister Browning clearly at the White House, but no one else is in the picture with her. She's just kind of on her own, which I think the church is trying to keep it pretty apolitical, but also, say you need to pray for the United States in a way that's very neutral, but that she's there. She's showing up. A lot of people, especially this year, declined to appear, declined to be there because of what's happening, or were not invited. And so I just thought it was great that, we were invited yet again. And the church said, Sister Browning, let's send her to represent us.
Yeah. Second counselor in the primary general presidency, for people who don't know. A woman of color, for people who may not put those things together.
A woman of cute glasses.
Yeah, cute glasses, and a St. John's graduate, which I think is incredible. Worked in financial services before taking the helm of what she did now. You know where the National Day of Prayer came from?
Please do share.
President Truman.
Of course.
At the threat of the Korean War, said, you know what, we're going to have a National Day of Prayer, and they've continued to do that tradition ever since. So when your friends whom are not of our faith say Mormons aren't even Christians, you look at them straight smack in the eye and you say, we are Christian enough to be invited to the National Day of Prayer. We are at least that Christian.
Yes. Yep.
So take that. We are at least that Christian.
Take that, Trump's anti-diversity inclusion and
now you see, I'm trying to leave names out of it. Contact at theculturehall.com. Those will be forwarded to Chow. This just came in, literally just came in. If you listen to our last episode of the Cultural Hall, it was the episode with Afterglow. You remember? It's the greatest gift the world has known. Or I heard him come. I saw.
Dude, I went to a concert in my day.
Oh yeah,
I did.
Had them in. They are the loveliest guys ever. Joel's wife Diana sent this email. I don't even know what it says. I just happened to click over to the other screen, and I'll read it to you. She says, "Loved the episode. I heard the origin story many times, but this time was my favorite so far. You have a way of making things fresh and funny. I literally laughed out loud more than once. This will bring new ears to the music and message they love to share. I'm so glad you picked up on the opportunity to chat, Diana. So if you have not yet checked that out, be sure you do."
Very, very sweet. So we do a lot, but you have a lot for next time.
Yeah, listen, we got
the Secret Lives of Mormon Housewives.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that. I'm working on Elder Dunn, because I want to talk about the humanitarian work that we're doing on the Navajo residents.
Yes.
So that is a teaser for some stuff coming up. I think I might be able to get him because he used to be my boss and he knows me, so I might be able to be like, "Hey, get permission, and I want to chat with you about this." So we'll see.
Do you have a co-host that's a doctor? No doctors in the
I mean, Russ is the love doctor. No, why do we need a doctor?
Well, no, it's talking the one story again. We're teasing for next time, the CT scanner.
Oh yeah, that's just because it's a service thing we did in another country.
Yeah, but I want to know like a doctor's perspective on the impact. So.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, if you are a medical doctor, I'll co-host some news with a medical doctor. One time only. First doctor to contact me. Contact at theculturalhall.com. Once you're done telling your friends that you're Christian enough, send an email,
Yes.
and then we'll get you to co-host. And I'd love to talk about some of these humanitarian things. And anyone who's a part of that within the church, we need more people sharing those stories, like the hands-on talking about that kind of thing.
Yes, the youth day of service, all that stuff. There's so many good stories you have saved for next time.
Yeah, we talked about all the trash ones.
Yeah, we got through the serious ones.
Well, I appreciate your perspective as always. I hope that this episode has nourished and strengthened your body.
And when the times come that you travel home safely,
Something like that. In the meantime, we'll be
even a seat.
Yeah, that's my part. That is my part.
Thank you to the Cake Bites podcast, the Little People, Sevens with a G or something like that. I can't remember. I listen to it a lot, but not enough.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. It is a thing that people automatically do. Let me do this.
In the meantime, Chris at Alpine Lakes Travel, Debbie Wanless, Chocolate Cake Bites Podcast, and the Tiger, with a U, will be saving a seat for you
On the back row
of the Cultural Hall.
Save me a seat, it's sure to be neat on the back row. We really gotta go on the Culture Hall show.